Good morning everybody, good morning, it's JPR and welcome back to another video. So on this channel, I have traveled across the land searching far and wide to answer things like who are the strongest legendary Pokemon, or what are the rarest events, or the most obscure features. And during my journeys, I found all sorts of neat little facts and features that would be great to talk about, the problem being that they didn't really fit well into any previous topics. So today's video is just that, a random assortment of facts that wouldn't fit into any previous videos, so I hope you enjoy. But before that, a word from the sponsor of today's video, Southern New Hampshire University. Have you ever thought of creating your own video game? I know that I've definitely dreamed of creating an RPG one day, something sort of like Pokemon, but it would definitely help to have the tools and the knowledge to do so. That's where Southern New Hampshire University comes in, offering over 200 degree programs to help you get started and moving towards a future career that you'll love. If you're interested in game development, then they've got you covered when it comes to teaching you all the valuable skills, such as game physics, 2D and 3D graphics, interface design, and multiple computer programming languages. Eventually, you can even learn about 3D modeling and texturing as well. On top of that, their courses are extremely flexible with no set time, so you can work wherever and whenever you want. They'll even let you transfer 90 credits towards your bachelor's degree and 12 credits towards your master's, so there's no need to worry about starting over. If you want to start down the road towards a potential future in game development, then be sure to go over to snhu.edu/JPR. That link will be down in the description below. Thank you Southern New Hampshire University for sponsoring. Back to the video. So since this video won't be going in any particular order, let's start with some very interesting Gen 3 facts. It should come as no surprise that the generation that included things like Mirage Island, fishing in very specific tiles for Feebas, and the Braille quest to unlock the Reggies would include some other very strange features. Like, did you know that riding on an acro bike in Gen 3 will actually lower your encounter rate with wild Pokemon by 20%? So, if you're short on repels, biking is just a better way to avoid wild Pokemon in these games than simply running. Especially since many sources say that the running shoes increase your chances of a wild Pokemon appearing. However, this is only outright confirmed by an NPC in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where they say that running creates more noise in the grass and attracts wild Pokemon, which is a detail that is actually true in that game. Heart Gold and Soul Silver actually pay a lot of attention to various environmental noises, which is pretty cool. Another weird quirk in the Gen 3 games is that all the Pokemon's cries are actually played at 90% speed. This was something I never noticed until listening to how the cries are actually supposed to sound on YouTube. It's definitely something you'd never notice without directly comparing them, but yes, the cries in Gen 3 are slightly slower than any other gen for whatever reason. Gen 3 also introduced Pokemon Natures, which will boost or lower your Pokemon stats by 10%. In a past video, I also discussed a small detail these natures had in Gen 3, where a Pokemon's nature would determine how a Pokemon reacts to being fed a Pokeblock. If a Pokemon is timid, it will hesitate to eat the food, but if it's hardy, it will jump at excitement. Almost all of the natures have their own unique animations for being fed. But as an extension to that, did you know that if you place a Pokeblock in the feeders at the Safari Zone, then the Pokemon that are drawn to the feeder will have whatever nature corresponds to the taste of the Pokeblock? Since the Safari Zone is home to the widest variety of Pokemon in the Hoenn region, this is one of the best methods to get Pokemon with the optimal nature in this generation. And for one last easily missable feature from the good old Hoenn region, when you are riding the SS title to the Battle Frontier for the first time in Pokemon Emerald, if you go to the windows in the back of the boat and click on them, you can actually see the boat's journey in real time down routes 134 and 133. This is the fastest method of getting the boat to its destination without just going to your cabin and resting, but honestly, this method is just way cooler. Speaking of routes, Route 228 in the Sinnoh region has to have some of the weirdest trivia out there. For those not nerdy enough to know what that route is off the top of your heads, it's the Sandstorm route south of Stark Mountain in the Battle Zone. For starters, a man believed to be Lucian's grandfather lives in this route, who tells the player about his grandson with psychic powers who constantly reads books. But he's only found here in Diamond and Pearl. He is removed in Platinum, and even in the incredibly faithful remakes, he does not make a return. Instead, the man here just talks about him and his son reading books, one of the only NPCs to be seemingly scrubbed from Sinnoh's history. Speaking of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl though, on this route there are two trainers with massive errors in their movesets. Prior to version 1.1.3, Ace Trainer Megan's Delcatty will know Feint Attack, despite Feint Attack not being programmed into these games. This was later patched out and replaced with Covet. Fantina has a similar issue in these games in her post-game rematch, where her Bayonet knows Snatch, another unusable move, but was likewise patched out and replaced with Payback. But returning to Route 228 for a moment, if you thought that was bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because in the Versus Seeker rematch with Psychic Corbin, his Bayonet will know Shadow Force. Yes, not Phantom Force, the weaker version that Bayonet is supposed to learn, but Shadow Force, Giratina's signature move. Someone on the dev team clearly had a very big brain fart and will one day wake up in a cold sweat at 3 AM realizing what they have done. But hey, maybe not everything in the remakes was a mistake. If you fought Ace Trainer Dana on Route 225, the route that leads to the survival area, you might have noticed that she keeps her Tropius in a Cherish Ball, making her the only NPC in the game to not use standard Pokeballs for everything. But this is actually an intentional reference to the first ever Pokemon given out in a Cherish Ball, that being Shokatan's Tropius in February of 2007. For those who don't know, Shokatan has been the host of various Pokemon news shows in Japan, has been a voice actress in the anime, and is currently an animator for both the games and the anime. She's a pretty big deal over there. But yes, her Tropius was the first ever Pokemon to be given out in a Cherish Ball, a trend that has since become the norm for Pokemon distributed over Wi-Fi. In addition to this reference, the Sinnoh region games also have trainers who are direct references to the characters who appeared in the Gen 3 movies. Butler and Diane from Jirachi Wishmaker can be found on Route 229, Rebecca from Destiny Deoxys with her Metagross can be found on Route 223, and Elizabeth from Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea can be found on Route 220. They appear in all the Sinnoh region games, including the remakes. But unfortunately, the translation team didn't realize that they were supposed to be game versions of the movie characters, and as such, they were all given incorrect names internationally. What's worse, though, is that the remakes, faithful as they are, did not correct this error. Which leads me to another error that was faithfully recreated in these games, this one being a dialogue error. In Diamond and Pearl, after defeating Cyrus at the Galactic HQ, he tells the player that if they want to save Yuxi, Mesprit, and Azelf, then go right ahead, I could care less. In Platinum, this was changed and Cyrus uses the correct phrase, I couldn't care less. But of course, in the remakes, this was again reverted to his original incorrect text from Diamond and Pearl. The remakes also replicate a glitch from the original Diamond and Pearl with the ability Suction Cups, which makes their added effect during fishing completely useless, even though this was also fixed in Platinum. I think this pretty much sums up Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl as a whole. And for one last fun one from these games, apparently scrolling through the Pokedex in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl will cause small amounts of lag to build up within the game. But this lag is cancelled whenever the dex is closed. However, if you scroll through the Pokedex for approximately 10 days, the game will eventually build up too much lag and completely crash. Gen 5 is another generation filled with all kinds of weird features that seem like hardly anybody knows about. For starters, on the Pokemon summary screen, did you know that if you rub your Pokemon in a circular motion, they will begin to levitate? But wait, that's not all. Rubbing them vertically will make them jump up and down, and they'll jump side to side if you rub them horizontally. In retrospect, this almost feels like a precursor to Pokemon Ami, a fully fleshed out minigame where you actually interact with your Pokemon. Speaking of Ami, once your Pokemon in Gen 6 reach a certain affection level, you can rub the bottom screen after a battle is over to praise your Pokemon and earn even more affection. It's a cute little detail and one that the game doesn't tell you about at all. But back to Gen 5, there's another little known bottom screen feature. In battles, if you hold the L button and tap one of your Pokemon's moves, the game will display the full description for the move without you needing to open the party menu first. This feature also exists in Gen 6 and 7, but again is never mentioned in-game. Now how about we talk about some obscure Pokemon move errors? The Gen 5 and Gen 6 TM list is mostly the same across the board with a few exceptions. One of these exceptions is that TM51 Ally Switch was changed to Steel Wing in Gen 6. Most Pokemon's TM data was updated to remove this, but LGM and Beheeyem's TM data was never updated after Gen 5. So they were accidentally given the move Steel Wing despite not having wings. Some people thought this was an intentional reference to Area 51, and that these two would always be able to use TM51 no matter which move it was, but this fan theory was deconfirmed in Sword and Shield when Icicle Spear replaced Steel Wing as TM51, a move that these Pokemon cannot learn. Oddly enough though, Steel Wing, despite being moved to TM30, is still part of these Pokemon's learn sets. In Pokemon Crystal only, the move Water Gun can be passed down as an egg move to Phanpy if the father of the egg is a Vaporeon, Wooper, or Quagsire. One would think this makes sense, seeing as how real elephants can use their trunks to shoot water, but never again after Crystal would Phanpy or Donphan be able to use Water Gun. In Gens 3 through 5, there exists an exploit to get a Shedinja that learns Sword Stance. If you delay Ninkata's evolution to level 25 when it would normally learn Sword Stance and then let it evolve that same level, the Shedinja that splits off from the Ninjask will also know Sword Stance, despite not officially being coded to learn that move. Even in Sword and Shield, a game that normally prevents Pokemon from using illegitimate moves, Shedinja is still somehow able to use Sword Stance if you transferred it up from those earlier generations. Even in these games though, if you attempt to teach Sword Stance to Shedinja via TR, the two are incompatible. So even though Shedinja is coded to not learn Sword Stance, for whatever reason, Sword Stance Shedinja remains legal. Shedinja has another odd quirk to it in Sword and Shield, where if you evolve a Ninkata with a mark, then the Shedinja will keep the title that the Ninkata had, but it will not have the mark present, making it the only Pokemon with this weird distinction. And while not in error, there is only one Pokemon out of the 905 currently in existence who cannot use any normal type moves. Do you know who it is? Well, time's up. It's Weedle. It can only learn Poison Sting, String Shot, Bug Bite, and in Gens 5 through 7, Electro Web. In Gens 2 and 3, since Bug Bite didn't exist yet, Weedle was actually completely unable to fight Steel-type Pokemon since its only damaging move was Poison Sting. Not that you'd ever really realistically be in that situation, or at least I hope not. And for our last game, Sword and Shield has a few odd tidbits of info as well. In the Motostoke Gym, you can actually shiny hunt just as you would anywhere else in the game, but oddly enough, the odds for the type of shiny stars you'll get are inverted from the rest of the game's wild encounters. Normally, there is a 15 out of 16 chance that wild Pokemon will appear with the square sparkles, but here the chance is much higher for the star sparkles. The shiny charm will also be completely ineffective inside the gym, and these Pokemon are all guaranteed to have at least 3 perfect IVs, putting them in the same category as legendary Pokemon for whatever reason. The first encounter Impidimp in the Glimwood Tangle also shares this unique distinction, as does the static overworld Corvisquire on Route 3, which, fun fact, is apparently shiny locked for absolutely no reason. What is your favorite strange Pokemon fun fact? Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below if I didn't mention it in this video. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to leave a like, it really helps me out, and subscribe for more content just like this. And as always, whoa, holy moly, where did this come from? Alright, a lot of channel members after the last stream. Thank you, Cress SSB, not only for becoming a channel member, but also for gifting all these other wonderful people with memberships of their own. Thank you so much. Granted, there's still some room left on here. We could get it a little bit bigger, don't you think? But yeah, that's gonna do it. I'll see you guys next time.